Hi. So today is very interesting. So from the beginning, in the morning, because of me still allowing and accepting myself to exist as a mind consciousness system, as how I feel, I have been allowing and accepting the want, need, and desire to sleep in, and I'm freaking I as an individual am more powerful than most people would give credit to. And as an individual, as a mind consciousness system, I did not want to get out of bed, and that's exactly what manifested. I wanted to sleep in there, and by allowing and accepting this want, it manifested, and I only woke up until 9 to 9:30. Got out of bed at about 9:45. Uh, and I studied, and seeing how I am actually making the studying process extremely difficult, extremely conflicting with myself by overemphasizing mistakes and always have one self-spite session, similar to how my mother, when I was a child, would scold me. I would scold myself exactly like that. Whenever I made one mistake, a single mistake in my test, or while doing past papers, and because I'm still in the process of revising and studying, there are at least 15 points in each past paper that I have not yet understood fully, which means if I allowed this to continue, I would have 15 tiring uh, showdowns with myself, the way parents would confront a child when a child has done something wrong. Your son or daughter, we need to talk. The talk, and by the third or fourth argument, I had enough. It was only after when the tiredness started manifesting itself as me, only then did I notice that I was spiting myself and justifying it by claiming that I will only change and correct myself when I have given myself a good talk, meaning scold myself and outright abuse myself to thoughts, thinking, like, how could you make that mistake? How could you? And then when my mother got home from work, she confronted me and she was concerned about the impression I was giving her that I was unhappy and yes, very unhappy. And after speaking for a while, it developed into, it led to a point where I started explaining myself and what I'm doing with myself and the ultimate goal that I am directing myself to achieve and live as the living example that I want to create myself to be. And a living example of treating my neighbor as myself in all ways and actually loving myself as self-love for a change, because selfishness and conceitedness is never really directed towards oneself as who one is here. Rather, it is directed towards one's needs and desires that that pop up seemingly out of nowhere, and obeying those wants, needs, and desires and worshipping them, though similar to the way generally how worshippers worship religion, use it as a cover to hide themselves from their own deception, from the fact that they lied, the fact that they have done things that they that they know is abusive, very nature. And what I thought was my biggest mistake actually became a significant gift toward myself to motivate myself to continue living self-change. And that big mistake that I thought was the big mistake was this: in talking with my mother and trying to explain myself, when I explained myself in the context of my own experience and what I have already walked through or am walking through, it made sense, and there was no strain in explaining those things because it already, to an extent, became part of who I am and who I have decided to live as. The moment I began thinking as falling is when I began talking about points outside of myself, like money, the role money plays in the world, the nature of corporations, the nature of the rich, the nature of the social system, the nature of the job system. That is when I began speaking from a point of knowledge and information, and as a result of that, and not having the humility to admit those mistakes quickly and emphatically, I was too proud and too arrogant to quickly admit those mistakes and stop them. And as a result, I sank into chaos, temporary chaos, where I subjected myself to a storm of frustration and anger and self-hatred for making a mistake and self-judgment. That is when I completely stopped and grinded the conversation to a halt and stopped it, cut it off. And after writing about it and exploring a few facets that justified this entire experience, I made a significant step toward realizing what equality is and realizing the fact that all is in fact equal in all ways. In the context of existence, and how everything is existing in the same way that everything is existing. And also seeing how, in fact, all of the answers to my questions, all of the problems that I need to face, all of the solutions, the self-corrective application to be applied is here. Therefore, in terms of my participation in real time, simply to direct myself here and direct myself to support myself and assist myself through scripting my self-corrective application by writing self-forgiveness statements, actually writing down the self-corrective statement to be lived. And then actually living and walking the timeline I have scripted for myself within self-forgiveness within writing self-corrective statements. And as a side note, for me, a very crucial point is to accept both the good aspects of myself and the bad, ugly, horrifying aspects of myself. And instead of running away from these horrifying aspects of myself in fear, rather face myself in self-honesty and correct those points accordingly. And another crucial point in my process is to stop allowing and accepting myself to spaz out and react strongly whenever I make a mistake, as I have talked about this earlier. Yes, that is all that I will share today. The other point that I wanted to share will be done in a separate video. Thank you for watching.